Good evening, everybody. Welcome to your city council. Thanks for coming. I will call us to order for June 9th. We've got a lot of things that are somewhat different than the things we always have tonight. So here we go. First, we're going to turn off our cell phones. Then we're going to take a moment. I lost a friend and a colleague, and the city lost a friend. The longtime city manager, Steve Wheeler, passed away this past week or so ago. I was sad to learn that. I had just seen him a month before. He did a lot of good work here, and some of us worked with him, and I worked with him. And so, Steve Wheeler, let's take a moment. Let's say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So our convention is that at the beginning of each meeting, we attempt to acknowledge that the land we do our work on was the home to folks long before my people came here, perhaps your people came here. I found a video the other day that really was thought-provoking to me. I shared it with counselors, and I've had a chance to talk to a couple folks about it. I think we're not going to show it right now, Jen and Abigail. Thank you for your cooperation. I really would like to talk to you guys about it. I was quite touched by it and would like to figure out how to move forward on this sometimes seemingly impossible task. And as the president is bulldozing LA, it sort of seems like doubly like, what the hell is going on? So thank you to our presenters today who have some answer to what do we do now that what the hell is going on. So anyway, that's in light of that, I will what we typically say as we gather today. We respectfully acknowledge that the land on which the city of Hood River sits is the ancestral home of indigenous peoples, including the Nez Perce, Umatilla, Warm Springs, and Yakima, and other tribes who stewarded this land for generations. We recognize the lasting impact of colonialism and commit to working together for a more just and sustainable future. And now, with your permission, Mr. Chair, we'll switch things around and have we have a number of folks here to speak to the proclamation. And then we have two people who are signed up for public comment who are not for the proclamation. So if I could start with the business from the audience, please. We have Greg Crafts and Michael Sprague. If you could come on up and touch the red disc and make it a green disc. And tell us what you'd like us to know. Thanks for coming. Yeah, touch the white there. Now it's green disc. You did it.
Okay, good. My name's Greg Crafts from 2 Eugene Street in Hood River. I'm actually here as a founding board member of the Big River Community Land Trust. And in your consent agenda packet tonight, there's an item that'll save us the SCC charges for the sewer connection of the Decker Road project. And so we just want to say thank you very much for the support. I'm assuming you're going to pass that. And so the CLT thanks everybody for that support.
Great. Thank you, Greg, for coming and for your work on that for decades and on this also on such a housing resource you've provided. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Yep.
And Mr. Sprague.
Good to see everybody. Thanks for your hospitality. It was a real pleasure last week to listen to Maxine Dexter and Matt Ellis. I thought they were both very refreshing and interesting. I would like to suggest that in the future, if we have dignitaries from other levels of governments or other agencies, that unless the public testimony is scheduled to be very, very, very long, it would be in your constituents' interest for them also to hear the concerns that happen there. I believe last week it was 6 minutes. I think even a very busy Congresswoman or district attorney has 6 minutes to allow people to be heard. I suppose if there's just a standard order that things do proceed in, you don't even have to apologize to a Congresswoman that she can't go early, for example. I don't know anything about her particular, but you can just say, this is how we do it, and you'll have to wait 6 minutes. Just there would be a benefit to your constituents, balancing on the people's being in a hurry and stuff. I thought that would be something that would be nice to share. And the acknowledgement, like I said, I've kind of been a little bit curious about that too. I think if there is something that needs to be said in that acknowledgement, it might be helpful to keep looking for a way to say it that doesn't risk seeming disrespectful by saying, we stole this and we're gonna now talk for an hour and a half about other stuff. To me, that if somebody says, took something from me, and then they say we took it, and then they announce that they took it, I'd be uncomfortable with that, both from the being dispossessed and then the publicizing of that, which of course is not a secret, but I'm not sure what benefit that has, or whatever benefits there. I think we gotta keep being curious about how we can find it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right, let's start with you, Lisa. Actually, sorry, we're figuring it out here. John, you and I have been corresponding. I'm going to let you decide what order the folks speak okay, well, but I think Lisa is going to share something about the graduation speech
So.
that I enjoyed on Friday night. Thank you very much.
No,
It's okay.
Elisa, yeah. So I got it wrong.
All right, John, lead us through. And then after you finished your scripting, I'll ask if anyone else
All right.
still needs to speak. So great. Thanks, John, for
Thank
being
you.
here.
So good evening, everybody. Paul, Mayor Blackburn, members of the council. I'm John Boonstra. I live at 413 Adams Creek Place. I'm one of the people who serves on the leadership group for the Somos Immigrante campaign. And my role is to thank you for the proclamation you're going to issue this evening, not only for your reaffirmation of values that our community that hold our community together as an inclusive city, but also for the courage you have for speaking out in these times and in this place for the safety and security and dignity of all who are victimized by escalating racial and immigrant status discrimination. These are precarious times when our federal policymakers are trampling on the rules of due process, the well-being of law-abiding immigrants, and the rights of safety of all of our nation's residents. And the militarization in LA today is just but the latest example. The blatant falsehoods we hear from our federal bureaucrats counter our lived experience of the sacred value of immigrants. We are reminded that with the exception of Native Americans and African Americans forced here by slavery, we are all immigrants. The irony is that the violence being done by federal anti-immigrant customs enforcement in the name of national security is precisely what makes all of us more fearful and more vulnerable. It frays the tapestry that connects us to one another. None of us are naive about the limited legal power of a local government proclamation, but all of us are wise enough to know that public declarations are the invitations we need to feel empowerment to organize together around common values and principles. I thank you, members of the City Council, for proclaiming Somos Immigrante, we are immigrants. You have laudably framed your job. Not long ago in the 1940s, history presented to us in Hood River with another opportunity to stand for justice for those experiencing racist dislocation and forced exclusion. Back then, we did not pass the test. Today, you have shown us that what we began to do locally by proclaiming Somos Immigrante can model what makes Hood River in 2025 the Hood River we need to be in the future. So I thank you for doing this.
Thank you, John.
Do I push this again?
No, it's green. We're good.
Or good? Okay. Hi, it's good to be with you. My name is Vicki Stifter. I've met a number of you before. I serve as the pastor at Riverside Church, and I'm also on the steering committee of the We Are Immigrants, Somos Immigrantes campaign. We launched on March 7th. I think you all have some materials that will tell you things, so I don't need to go through all of that. I want to thank you for the proclamation that you will be making. We started this because we were concerned about our neighbors. We were hearing from people who were afraid to go out. Some were citizens, some were not, didn't matter. They happened to look like immigrants. And so we thought, what can we do? And there was this incident in Billings, Montana that inspired us a number of years ago when a rock was thrown through the window of a Jewish family's home. They had a menorah in the window, and the community responded by putting menorahs in their window. You don't stand alone. We don't let anybody stand alone. And so by your proclamation this evening, you're saying that as well to our immigrant neighbors. So one of the things that we've been doing when we've been speaking to groups about this campaign is starting off by asking people where they're from and where their people are from. So I just wanted to take a minute of my time to find out where your people come from, your ancestors, or perhaps you yourself are an immigrant. So
My granny's people come from the Caribbean. My dad's people come from Northern England.
My family via Chicago, all of them came from Northern Italy, Poland, Czechoslovakia at the time, pretty much all over Europe.
I don't mean to assign order.
Okay, that's fine. And it's not.
My family comes from Mexico.
And I could have said up front that I'm the proud great granddaughter of immigrants from Austria and Germany. So that's my lineage. And anybody else want to share?
Sicily and Southern Italy.
English, Irish, and Ashkenazi Jew, so kind of Ukraine, Lithuania, Poland, that area.
Lovely. Anybody else?
A lot of various European countries, but Germany on both sides, so
Right.
that's a big.
Okay. So thank you. You can read more about the campaign and the materials that you have. We have over nearly 750 signs that are now out in homes and in businesses, mostly in homes at this point. We're just starting down the businesses. We have over 150 yard signs. And both of those I think are available. Do we have them with us tonight? If you would like to, yes, we would love to get a picture with y'all after at the appropriate moment with one of the signs. But so I want to pause there and introduce Maya Yasui. I think probably you all know Maya, so I don't need to say a word about her. So thank you, Maya.
Someone just said one word, my husband will go, yes, that's enough. So I attended graduation last Friday. I saw Paul there. And I was struck by an amazing speech. There were many, but the young lady that I'm sharing my time with did share our feelings really well about immigrant families. She's brought her families here, her aunt and uncle, her mother and father and sister. That takes courage in terms of coming into the public. She's a future Gladys Rivera. I think she will be sitting on a city council or a county commission meeting soon. She's going to share her speech, which is about being an immigrant and how thankful she is. She will be doing it in Spanish, and I'm providing those of you who wish for the English.
You give it to Abigail. Thank you.
We'll follow along. She'll begin in English, and then she'll follow in Spanish. She's always wanted to make a difference, and believe me, she's gonna make a difference. So Elisa Chavez Leon.
Good afternoon, friends, family, faculty members, class of 2025, and Mayor Paul Blackburn and City Council. My name is Elisa Chavez Leon, and I'm truly honored to stand before you today in honor of all the Hispanic first-generation graduates and families with whom we share the special day. The majority of my speech will be in Spanish. Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Yulisa Chavez León y es un verdadero honor para mí estar aquí hoy. En honor a todos los graduados de primera generación de familias hispanas con quienes compartimos este día tan especial, La mayor parte de mi discurso será en español. I am and I forever will be the proud daughter of immigrant parents. Soy y siempre seré orgullosamente hija de padres inmigrantes. Mi motivación para ir a la universidad, como muchos de ustedes que vienen de una familia inmigrante o hispana, son mis padres. My parents came to this country with nothing. Regardless, they have managed to work tirelessly to provide me with a life that they never had. Gracias a mis papás, mi mayor inspiración. Este diploma no solo es mío, es suyo. Es para mi papá, quien siempre quiso un trabajo para mí donde no tuviera que estar debajo del sol. Y es para mi mamá, con quien soñó para ir al colegio, pero no pudo. Este diploma es para ustedes que como inmigrantes hicieron muchos sacrificios para que yo tuviera la oportunidad de cumplir mis sueños. Aunque para muchos solo es una diploma de preparatoria, mis padres, como muchos de ustedes, nunca tuvieron la oportunidad de obtener su diploma o ni siquiera de asistir a la preparatoria. Honraré sus sacrificios cumpliendo mis sueños y terminando lo que ellos no pudieron. Mi consejo para ustedes: si tienes un sueño, síguelo, no lo dejes ir. Haz lo que hagas después de la preparatoria, hazlo con orgullo. Sigue rompiendo barreras, sigue cambiando la historia y toma tu lugar con la frente en alto. Sigue honrando a tu familia, abogando por tu comunidad. Take up space. Llevamos las lágrimas y los sueños de nuestras familias en nuestra sangre. Alcanza las estrellas, toca el cielo, pero nunca olvides a las personas que te ayudaron a llegar allí. Si tienes privilegio, úsalo. La representación importa. Representa a tu comunidad hoy y siempre como nunca antes. No dejes que nadie te diga que tus sueños no son alcanzables. Puede ser difícil alcanzar tus sueños, pero vale la pena. El trabajo duro y la dedicación te llevan a todas partes en la vida. Ojalá tuviera las palabras para consolarte sobre el mundo que hemos heredado. Estamos separados por fronteras que no existían antes. Nacimos de sueños que cruzaron esas fronteras. No hay que olvidar que nuestra comunidad no avanza y no prospera sin el trabajo duro de nuestra comunidad inmigrante. Ustedes tienen la responsabilidad de luchar por un futuro mejor para sus familias. Usen su talento y su corazón para servir, unir y transformar, porque luchar por algo más grande que uno mismo trae propósito, significado y sentido. Si quieres ver un cambio, tienes que ser ese cambio. Este no es el final, es solo el comienzo. Mi mamá y mi papá nunca han dejado de recordarme que puedo hacer lo que quiera en la vida siempre y cuando esté dispuesta a esforzarme para lograrlo. Recuerda siempre que eres capaz de hacer mucho más de lo que crees. A pesar de sus sacrificios y sus dudas, sigan adelante, porque un día se darán cuenta que sus esfuerzos han valido la pena. Ahora puedes entrar en espacios donde nuestros antepasados no eran bienvenidos. Asegúrate de representar no solo a ti, sino a todos. Aprovecha la oportunidad, no silencies tu voz. Cada espacio necesita diversidad y alguien que se atreva a liderar ese camino. A nuestras familias que están presentes, que han dejado su hogar y su país, a las que nos acompañan a la distancia y a las que desde el cielo nunca los dejan, gracias por sus sacrificios y su apoyo. Este diploma no solo nos pertenece a los que estamos graduándonos, sino a cada uno de ustedes que nos han ayudado a cumplir nuestros sueños. Si nos ven volar, recuerden que ustedes nos dieron las alas. If you see us fly, remember that you gave us our wings. Les deseo a todos mucha suerte en lo que sea que las vidas les proponga. Felicidades, clase de 2025. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the immigrant community.
Just so you know, someone tried to drown her out at graduation. There was a roaring engine of a car trying to drown her voice. And I wanted you to hear it today. So thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Jackie Garcia. I am a community health worker at the Next Door, but this is my own personal statement. With this campaign, Somos Inmigrantes, we are immigrants. It is a new campaign for me. I'm a recent college graduate. I'm the first in my family. And I just moved back to work for my community. Because I know how important it is. This community has raised me, and seeing how much support people are trying to raise here is super important to our entire community. It's a powerful act of solidarity with everyone who's in vulnerable positions right now. Fear is rising. We see it every day, and more people are being targeted for being an immigrant, for looking like me, and so as someone who comes from immigrants, seeing the signs around town, it feels like a warm embrace to being here. It's a reminder that our neighbors do support us. We have to remember that immigrants have helped shape and enrich our town. Their hard work and their resilience have built the community that we get to enjoy every day. Those beautiful views, everything that we get to see and enjoy. We also have to remember, and we can't forget when the Japanese Americans were in our town and they were treated so inhumanely in the 30s and 40s. That history has to remind us why we have to protect all of our immigrant communities and all of our neighbors today. So that kind of injustice, it can never be repeated. Thank you.
Great. I also have Mari Ruth and Jacqueline Garcia. That was you, Jacqueline. Sorry. Mari Ruth. You're good? Gonna pass. Okay. Did anyone else intend to speak who I've overlooked or something? Thanks for coming. So I'm gonna go a little bit out of order here because as you said, it's on the consent agenda. We're just kind of getting used to this new process. The intention, of course, council, is to streamline the process in a way that makes sense for us to be able to express our support for things that are in accord with our goals and our values. The goal is not to drive the bus smashing through with Paul's agenda. So it is on the consent agenda and they have asked for a photo and I'm good with that if we pass it, but I don't want it to be any sort of a groupthink, like uncomfortable thing. And I've had a couple of conversations with you guys. So I guess at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes this.
Mayor, if I.
No, it doesn't. Excuse me. Abigail, go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think we have this as a presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, and that there is no motion or action needed.
Okay. So in fact, we are doing the de facto thing. So going forward on this or other topics, if you're like, whoa, Paul, you pulled that one through and I didn't get my voice, I want to hear about that. But this evening, there is no vote as procedure. And if anyone who would like to take a photo in front of the dais, often we do that. So I'm going to invite us to do that. I'm going to bring my little sign. Okay, well, I'm bringing my little sign on. All right, so the way we usually do this is we want to see the seal. I want in here and right, cozy up.
Okay, so yeah. You want to be it for comments that you.
And you have a professional photographic person who guide us. Can you kind of get it all, Tricia? Is that?
So Lorraine needs to come up here. And then you need to come in a little bit more. And then John is kind of. She moved up the lane now. John goes down. I'll be back up.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do.
I will now read the proclamation. Whereas immigrants, past and present, contribute to the strength and vitality of our city, and whereas many in our community are living in fear as a result of heightened levels of anti-immigrant policies and practices promoted by national leaders, and whereas we recognize that Japanese Americans once thrived in this community and were also the victims of fear, forced dislocation, unjust imprisonment, and violence, and whereas with the exception of Native Americans and African American victims of slavery, we are all immigrants, and whereas the Hood River City Council adopted Resolution 2017-02 and the Resolution 2025-06, language stating that Hood River is an inclusive city committed to fight discrimination and recklessness in all its forms and to moving forward together to maintain the city's integrity and forward progress on issues that we collectively value. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Hood River City Council, proclaims Sumos Inmigrantes, we are immigrants, and reaffirms its commitment to defend the dignity, safety, and well-being of all our hardworking, law-abiding immigrants. Be it further resolved that the Hood River City Council encourages local residents, businesses, and other organizations to display Somos Inmigrantes signs as a symbol of support for our immigrant-friendly community where everyone has an opportunity to thrive. Adopted this 9th day of June 2025, Paul Blackburn, Mayor. I don't know how many of you followed it. I became aware of it from a direct text, like maybe the middle of last week. And then at a party, someone had seen it on effectively the national news that the federals put out a list of sanctuary municipalities, and the state of Oregon was on it and counties were on it. And the city of Hood River was one of 4 in the state. And part of me wanted to quibble because in 2016, when we passed it, we did not say sanctuary, because we were totally scared that they were going to just cleave us with the battle axe. But in any way, we're on that list, but now apparently that list has come down. So who knows what the hell's going on? And truthfully, I don't know what is the smartest thing to do, right? I mean, the metaphor of the like prairie dog who sticks his head up is the one who gets hacked off. And I don't want to lose funding. I don't want to draw ice. I don't want to put anyone at risk so that like I feel better. So it's a difficult time, interesting time. Please don't perceive any reluctance to like blow the trumpet as anything but strategy. So anyway, thanks you guys for your partnership and advocacy and for coming down. And discúlpame que mi español no es más fuerte, pero gracias por venir. All right, we're going to move on. And feel free to stay or go or yeah. Okay, so we did everything. Now it's back to urban renewal. Is that where we are? I will suspend our meeting and hand it over to Chair Stepina.
Got some things to shift around here. Let me pull the agenda back up and then we'll get started. So I want to call the Hood River Urban Renewal Agency to order. First thing is, are there any agenda or additions or corrections?
There are not.
Any business from the audience signed up? Or anybody online, Jen, to speak to urban renewal? Okay. Okay, so the first thing that we have is the consent agenda. Looking for the approval of the meeting minutes for April 28th, 2025.
Move to approve the meeting minutes.
First by Ben,
Second.
second by Gladys. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Consent agenda passes. The next thing we have is a hearing, and I have a script for that. So this is a public hearing for fiscal year 2025-2026 approved budget. This is the time scheduled for a public hearing regarding the approved budget for fiscal year 2025-2026 for the Hood River Urban Renewal Agency. We will now take public testimony. City Recorder, is anybody registered to speak on the public hearing? Hearing none. The following are the rules of order for tonight's hearing. Speakers register, oh, sorry, I guess I don't have to, that's part of it. Will.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for, so yeah, tonight is a public hearing and also a resolution in your packet adopting the budget for the Urban Renewal Agency for fiscal year 2025-26. Major projects in the budget and upcoming is one, moving forward the stormwater waterfront downtown stormwater project, hopefully to its completion, and then closing out both districts, which will be a huge turning of the chapter for the agency. Up on the Heights, it's hopefully starting to turn dirt and make all of our years of planning come to fruition with some of the initial projects completed in the Heights Streetscape Plan. And then over on the West Side District, it is implementing and trumpeting our middle housing construction incentive to hopefully get as much building sparked as we can with the limited amount of resources that we have while we focus on the bulk of our basically funding and focus on Mount Adams intersection improvements, because that's really the upstream bottleneck that is going to improve the development potential of the west side. So those are the main focuses. The budget appropriations resolution in front of you today is as approved by the budget committee. And we don't have any recommended changes for you tonight. So if you want to move forward, there is a suggested motion in your packet, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Will? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move that we adopt the resolution 2025 URA-02, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2025-26.
Motion by Cavallari,
Second.
second by Gaiki. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion passes. And public hearing on the fiscal year 2025-2026 approved budget is also closed, noting that. Anything else, Will, in terms of administrator updates or anything else to discuss?
Nothing else to add tonight.
Any items to speak about urban renewal from the agency members tonight? I just have one. Will and I spoke to some high school students that were doing a paper on affordability in Hood River and all the challenges that go along with that. And it reminded me that, you know, it's a pretty complex issue, right? So, and how urban renewal plays into that and what urban renewal is. I'd urge anybody that wants to understand that. Will did a very good, let's say it was a tight 10 at the beginning of the last of the budget meetings that we had to describe what urban renewal is and how things happen with an urban renewal. So anybody out there listening that doesn't understand quite what urban renewal is, that's a great way to articulate that as part of Will's presentation. I'd urge you to check it out. It's posted on the website on YouTube as well. And, you know, thanks to those high school students for speaking with us and being so interested in affordability in Hood River. Okay, if there's nothing else, then I'll go ahead and adjourn and pass the gavel back to Mayor Blackburn to reconvene the city council.
Great. I'll call us back to order. We have a public hearing over here as well. I'm going to read our script. Public hearing for the fiscal 25-26 approved budget. This is the time scheduled for a public hearing regarding the approved budget for the 25-26 fiscal year and the use of state shared revenue for the city of Hood River. The approved budget uses state shared revenue as a general fund revenue source, supporting police, fire EMS, parks, engineering, and planning programs. We will now take public testimony. Jen, has anyone registered to speak or provided written testimony? No one online? Great. And therefore, there is no public testimony. We will go straight to the public hearing of the fiscal year 25-26 approved budget. Use of shared revenue is now closed, and we will hear from staff.
Great, thank you. So in front of you are resolutions 2025-12, which creates the budget for the fiscal 2025-26 year, and imposes and categorizes tax levies, and 2025-13, which is the election to receive and use state revenues. The budget committee deliberated over the course of 3 meetings. The proposed budget was approved by that budget committee as presented at the 3rd meeting on May 21st, 2025. The fiscal 2025-26 budget appropriates $52 million in all funds budgets, $64 million including unappropriated and reserved amounts. Major projects and initiatives planned for the fiscal year include funds for a 5-year information technology plan, utility rate study, and IT equipment replacements. The general fund also includes a transfer to the building fund and a loan to the Urban Renewal Agency in support of the promotion of housing production. Public works budgets include funds for continued improvements on critical water, wastewater, and storm line replacements, as well as road repair. Planned large public work projects include the May Street elevated sidewalk replacement and numerous stormwater line replacements and pipe replacements across town, each as outlined in the 5-year capital plan, which is in the budget document. These projects may require borrowing, which would be supported by utility rate revenue. The budget was prepared on the basis of accounting that is the same the preceding year, and a summary of the budget appropriations of this approved budget appear in your resolution 2025-12.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions of Chris? Go ahead.
I do, thank you, and I'm trying to find it. There is a section where it says small grants and the total it's on page 7, 18,810. And I might have missed it because I did miss a budget meeting, but was curious if we know which organizations or what those dollars are going to. I believe the MCAC dollars are,
Yeah, so the small grant fund was established several years prior. Right now, the funds that are in there, I believe, were for a Parks Brick program.
oh, what?
A Parks Brick program, like a Name a Brick program.
Okay,
And so I do not believe that those funds are, well, while those funds are appropriated, there's not a specific use that they're appropriated for at this time.
okay, okay. That was my only question. Thank you.
The questions for staff?
Just a quick comment, just want to extend my thanks to the staff for such hard work. It's a huge amount of effort to put the budget together and probably even harder to be able to get through it and present on it. So thanks to staff, thanks to all the department heads for the tremendous work on this last budget cycle.
Great, thank you, Chris. So ultimately, we do have a motion.
I move that the city council approve resolutions 2025-12 and 2025-13, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2025-26, imposing and categorizing tax levies, and electing to receive state shared revenue.
Moved by Rivera,
Second?
second by Stepina. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. Good job, everybody. It's been a process, been a bunch of meetings, been a bunch of work. Let's keep running the city. Now we have the consent agenda.
Mayor, if I may, can I request that item number 2 be pulled from the consent agenda and additional discussion before it's approved?
Absolutely. So item number 2 will be removed from the consent agenda per Anna's request. So I suppose a motion as amended would be in order.
I move to approve items number 1 and 3 from the consent agenda.
Moved by Paulson,
Second?
second by Stepina. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. You want to kick off some conversation about the sewers, Anna?
I just want to recuse myself from the vote. Just I believe in the work that Big River Community Land Trust does so much that they are a client of mine, and I don't think it would be appropriate for me to weigh in, but I do believe in the work that they're doing.
Thank you for your generosity to them, and thank you for paying attention to stepping off on. Appreciate that, Anna. So the remainder, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I will, what's the best way to do this? Say item 2, is there a proper way?
Item 2 seems okay.
Okay. I move to approve item 2 of the consent agenda.
Moved by Stepina,
Second.
second by Rivera. Further discussion? Grant.
I would like to discuss the precedent this creates in waiving STC fees for housing development if we choose to go down this path. If we choose to approve this, potentially, it creates a precedent that any developer, if they meet certain requirements, may come to us and waive STC fees for this or similar sort of use. Do we wish to create this precedent and go with it going forward?
Thank you, Grant. I agree. It's an important question. And I know that staff has had some conversation about it. I've had some conversation about it. I'd be interested, is there, precedent is a big word. Does this obligate us going forward? Are we going to be able to say no later on any legal grounds? Is it inviting everyone to apply to us, request? Just, I would welcome everyone's thoughts on that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ben, and then
Well, I was gonna say that I believe that this is not technically waiving, this is us paying them, and I believe that there was a specific distinction made about that. What was the case, so.
I second that piece and that I take this back to our guide being the affordable housing strategy. And in the future, if there are developers that meet a lot of the requirements that we are looking for affordability and mixed income housing, that it is something that we should consider given the housing crisis that we have in the city of Hood River.
Thank you, Glenn. Doug?
Yeah, and first off was the same that Ben had, so I think of that, procedurally, we're for it. Similar to the incentive that we have for missing middle and whatnot that we're doing through urban renewal, I think, formalizing something like this would be a bad idea either.
I appreciate the complexity of the topic. For example, we had that fantastic groundbreaking the other day for a long-awaited and much worked for Mariposa Village. CDP, the lead partner on that, is a for-profit corporation. That's not how I imagined the world worked, but in fact, that I believe is the best choice. But it's not like a black and white slam dunk thing. And there's different income targets for different projects. Mariposa Village is a lower income target than the Big River Community Land Trust targets. I assert that they are both valuable and desired, but I think we do ourselves a disservice pretending it's all so obvious as to not even talk about it. So I applaud Grant bringing it up, and let's keep our eyes open. I do think that if we can get a house for sale for $370-something thousand for the price of sewer hookup, that's a win for my goal, our goal, I assert. But we got to keep talking about it, and it doesn't mean forever for everybody. And so there, Grant.
Just to expand on that, it's not for the price of sewer hookup. We also donated the land. We also, if they hypothetically may come to us for additional waivers of fees, other developers may come to us for additional waivers of fees. So if we're going to go down this route and waive this fee, just be aware of what we are choosing to do.
Yep.
So not necessarily waive the fee, but pay for the fee.
Gladys.
I hear that. I guess for me, I'm still on the thought that if it aligns with our housing goals, that it is something that we should take into consideration. If it's $1 million plus home, I think we all might react a little bit different, right? So I think as long as, at least from just my opinion, as long as it aligns with our housing strategy overall and that we have to do something, right? We have businesses that are closing. We have people that are being displaced because they can no longer live here. We have our own staff, right? Police, fire that live outside of the city limits and have to travel in, that we do have to think innovatively of what we as the city could do to support more affordable housing in Hood River.
I'd also say to Grant's point about the land donation, if we've done that, then I'm certainly not going to quibble over $2,300. I'd also add that this is kind of, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is their first project right in Hood River. So I think, really showing our support, and hopefully they'll do even more projects. I think if nothing else, there's a little bit of symbolism behind that. This is the first one, and I hope that there's more.
As an example of another part of the conversation, for example, one could argue perhaps what we should have done is we should not have given them the land. We should have sold the land and put that into our Mariposa Village Fund. That would have been another way to work in towards our goals. It's complicated, and we're making the best decisions we can. And I do hope it doesn't mean that we're locked in. I have heard from staff that we are not locked in. We can decide different next time, and our job is to make decisions, and we have an opportunity to make a decision about this. Anna?
Well, I'm recused myself from the decision on this. I'd like to add my 2 cents because I just can't resist. But I think that, in thinking about the land proclamation and the conversation about that, each of us has this opportunity to be stewards of this land in this moment of time. And I think that we have an obligation to look at these opportunities on a project by project basis And what the land trust is accomplishing with this postage stamp of a property is the highest and best use, in my opinion, of this property, because this isn't a decision that is a blanket decision. And it does seem like a fair investment in something that is the highest and best use of this particular property. And I think when we're considering these things, we should look at, the big picture and the small details, because both are relevant. So I'm sorry, I will recuse myself now.
Recuse, is that a word? Other discussion? Thanks y'all for your good pondering. Doug? Motion is what we have a motion on the table. So any other discussion before I call the question? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Bolson votes nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Greg. Action items. Is Katie here with us? Okay. Yes, I know you're here.
Thank you all. Sorry, a little stumble there. Before you have a letter from Katie Cadlub, Executive Director of Visit Hood River, requesting a waiver of fees for the very successful First Friday series. There are 3 of them this time. In the packet, there's some information just about the costs and the dates. Normally your direction has been to put these just in the consent agenda, but I put this one as an action item for 2 reasons. One, this is a 501c6, a little bit different than the nonprofit, the other nonprofits you've received. Those have been 501c3s. And then also that there are some direct costs that the city incurs for the First Fridays, mostly staff costs for closing the streets. So with that, I'm just happy to answer any questions. I think many of you have attended First Friday, so you are as expert on it as I am. And happy to answer questions or take back. Otherwise, I did not recommend a motion, so you'll need to develop it on the fly.
Thank you, Abigail.
Thank you.
Would anyone like to speak first? Doug.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I had an opportunity to speak at length with Katie Cadlub from Visit Hood River in the chamber on this. I think based on a lot of the other discussions we're having about, summer streets and inclusivity, I can't argue the idea that, promoting by, financial support, closures for, Pride, closures for the Latino population. Councilor Rivera and I were speaking about that recently too, about summer streets and just like the amount of people that we see come out into the community for those types of events, I think aligns a lot with our goals. The methodology in which Abigail's presented, I'm in favor of, by not just waiving the costs necessarily, but as it relates to direct labor costs for the events and those sorts of things. I think it's something to consider and part of the decision. Certainly want to tie that to something that the city is doing cost-wise. I'd also be interested, since there isn't a recommendation, if Abigail or Chris can tell us if they're concerned about the financial impact about this as part of this. If we were to pass what's the fee here.
I'm not particularly concerned about any financial impact. I think similar to some of the discussions that have been had, I'm a little bit more concerned just to the precedent, just with regards to blanket waiving fees when the city does incur certain costs, particularly with an event as organized as the street closures. So although there is not a staff recommendation, the methodology presented by Abigail on behalf of the city for consideration by council is something that I'm in favor of as well. So a partial fee waiver that doesn't that acknowledges the costs that are incurred by the city.
Right. Thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you, Chris.
Anna, and then Gladys.
I'm a little torn on this one, just because while I appreciate the work that Visit Hood River does, and I think that they threw a great party on Friday night. It was well attended by many locals and visitors alike. We had an opportunity to talk to a lot of people. Visit Hood River seems to be the priority is about bringing people here who are not here, and their priority is not the people who live here. And our job is to take care of the people who live here and welcome the people that are visiting. But I also, in light of recent feedback that we've received from local businesses, I don't know that this, you know, we've had conversations about the potential of closing down the main street and having an opportunity for our community to gather downtown. And the initial feedback that we've received to this idea is not favorable from the local businesses. So, you know, most of the local businesses. So my thought is the argument presented in the letter from Katie, which I support the work that they do, but is that this will support local businesses by increasing foot traffic, and we've actually heard to the contrary. So I think it's, and I could be persuaded otherwise by city council, but I feel like the best interest for our constituents and the people that live in the city and the people that have asked us to represent them is to not waive fees for for opportunities to promote our town to tourism, although we are still welcoming to people who want to come here.
Thank you, Anna. Gladys?
Thank you. Definitely support Visit Hood River. Really appreciate Katie and all the work that she's done. I remember the first meeting that she came to present to council, and I felt like I was very direct about some of the feedback of some of the items that she's presented, and that since then she's had an opportunity to connect with partners and to think about how to be more inclusive of our locals. We're going to share some comments later on about that meeting on Tuesday. And what I will say to some of the comments that Councilor Cavallari just brought up is that it is not the council's responsibility to generate revenue for the businesses downtown. And I think that those are two separate pieces where events like this do create foot traffic, but at the same time, it's not our job to direct these businesses to offer discounts and whatnot to ensure that there are incentives for the locals that live here. At one point in time, we did do the Locals Wednesday, and I think that was a great concept to ensure that we are inclusive of those who live here year round. At the same time, I do recognize that the city does give Visit Hood River, over $600,000 for this work. And for me, I think in addition to just First Fridays, I'd like to see what else is being done to create an environment that is inclusive of those who live here and those who do come to visit. These are dollars that the city does benefit from at the same time.
Thank you. Doug? I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah, the $700,000 that they get from our TLT is definitely kind of a sticking point for me, especially, it's a little bit different than a lot of the other organizations that come before us here on council, and that we're not we're not directly supporting them. And I would imagine that a lot of those organizations have very smaller budgets and margins. I do wish, in full disclosure, I worked with Katie quite closely at Mount Hood Meadows, and she's awesome. I wish she was here because I kind of wanted to ask a couple questions. One was are they under some sort of, because this is not a usual fee waiver, it's not like other organizations that come here, right, where it's kind of an annual request for fee waiver and we kind of do it. This is not usual. This is not a typical ask for them. So I was kind of curious, is there, a budgetary concern of theirs where it's hey, we could use a little extra help. And also be nice to know, there's kind of a reference to, we would, use this money to expand programming. I'm paraphrasing here. And it would be nice to kind of know also a little bit more about that. My initial lean is towards the no side, but I also, as Councilor Cavallari mentioned, I could be persuaded, but I kind of wish I had a little bit more information. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Amanda and then Doug.
Yeah, I feel like there's a difference with this ask as opposed to like the ones we usually receive, because the ones we usually receive are more about like park use or something that's very like low impact. This has a big impact to the town and the labor costs. So yeah, I don't think it's just the same old. And I could be convinced of waiving partial fees, but I do think, like, my personal opinion is they should at least be paying for the labor costs that we are paying to shut down the streets. And I don't know exactly how I feel about the whole thing, but at least partial.
Thank you, Amanda. Doug?
Just wanted to speak to a couple of things. First, and I will speak about this later, like Councilor Rivera said. I think the difference between Summer Streets and what this is, a number of the businesses that dissented to that idea, I would say not in good faith, but in an arguing fashion, we'll talk about that later, aren't open at night and usually aren't open during this time. So I think it's a bit different than what we were talking about, and I don't think we should equate necessarily a direct correlation to this with, First Friday, being that it is later in the evening. I also think that it's important to note that, that they are funded, Visit Hood River, by the TLT. That's a state law. So, when I weigh into my decision, it's not like we're like, hey, we're giving you money. It's the state's giving the money, more or less. And if we wanted to take issue with that, we should take issue with the state law. And then I guess finally from there, based on what I heard, it's to me, the way that it's been described here of like taking labor costs or something like that, and then there's a bunch of money on top of that. I think something like paying for the labor costs for the 3 events, and having them pay for that and subtracting from the total, I think is something that's logical to me.
Grant?
A few things. As Councilor Sapina mentioned, it is state law that Visit Hood River has to spend the portion of money that they get from TRT on events or things that focus on drawing people here from outside of a 50-mile radius. That is state law. There is nothing we can do about that. Hood River City has a 75%, 25% split, where 75% of that money comes into our general fund, which I'll remind our fellow councilors is the highest contribution in the state. So there is nobody else municipality-wise that receives more TRT as a percent than us. Visit Hood River also receives dues from local businesses, membership dues there. So regarding how Visit Hood River is funded, that's how it works, and that's how it's split up in between visitors or local businesses or the focus of Visit Hood River. So when we talk about what the focus of Visit Hood River is and why it's focused on visitors, it is mandated by state law that they have to be focused on, with TRT money, on events or things that are focused on visitors from outside of a 50-mile radius. There is absolutely nothing they can do about that. And then regarding the idea of events and the event fees, which really is what we're talking about, it's been our practice to waive event fees for anybody who's asked for park use, as we've done. This is different because it's in the street. So as my fellow councilors have alluded to, that we have a few costs associated with doing that, and I believe it'd be amenable to split that and say, hey, we have a few direct costs. If we split that and say cover the direct costs, we're going to weigh the rest of the event related costs. So if we wish to take it in that direction, I believe that would make sense.
I kind of see 3 choices here. We could charge them rack rate, we could charge them nothing, or we could do that 1250, sort of the middle direct cost. Personally, there's honorable arguments on all sides, in my opinion. I'm kind of wavering between paying them full and charging them full and charging them sort of the direct cost wholesale rate because the state law, as Grant indicates, sends a lot of money to this cause. And I'd rather give incrementally more money to, say, the chief and his people than to additional promotion. That's my opinion. Gladys?
I just had a question, maybe for Abigail. When is the next time that Visit Hood River comes back to present to us?
That's a great question. I think last time they just provided a report in the packet, and I think that was in the fall. But
Okay.
if you'd like to request that Visit Hood River come and do a presentation, I can get that scheduled probably for August or September. If that's
Yeah, I think if my peers are okay with that, that would be a great, it would be great if Katie had the opportunity to sit with us and just talk about how the events that they put on and how else these dollars are being put to use, recognizing that there are laws on how it's spent and whatnot. And then I would also agree with my peers that if they can support with the direct costs of our staff for these days and times, that we could evenly split that.
So while we're on this, I'll try to make some progress. You're suggesting they come face to face, not a written report, kind of in the next, is that kind of what folks want? Katie's people in person?
She's historically done that, where she gives us a PowerPoint and points out, here are the partnerships that we've created, here are the events that we've put on and pictures and whatnot. So that's what I'm asking.
And is that what folks want? I just want to see if we can get this decided. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to check something. Are we talking about like tabling this until?
Oh, no,
That's what I was
no,
confused
just, I, maybe I'm being unhelpful here, but it's like Gladys suggested that we invite Katie. I want to see if we want to invite Katie kind of soonish. And Ben?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, of course. Okay, Doug?
And I think just like in general, if we feel that this isn't something that goes onto the consent agenda, because usually something like this would be, right? That maybe, take a temperature of the counselors and say, would you want them to come? Because I know part of the discussion we had was we want people to be able to come if they feel like they should and that sort of thing versus, sometimes people are like, they've done it last year. We've always supported it. Maybe it's not worth their time to come every time. I think this is just like something where maybe if we would have given Katie a heads up, like, hey, it would be nice for you to come, like, or for anybody that we feel if we're going to pull it off the consent, we should do that.
Good point. Just before Gladys, go ahead, Gladys.
I just want to clarify that I'm not suggesting Katie come to talk about First Fridays. Since I've been on council, she historically comes once a year to present all of Visit Hood River, the projects, collaborations, and all the work that they're doing. I'm not asking that she just come and present on First Fridays and this fee waiver.
And I thought that's what you were saying. Also.
That's what I was saying,
I
yeah.
thought you were saying that, and I was just checking. Do we all want to hear from Katie in general?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, back to your regularly scheduled program. So yes, please, let's bring Katie. And now we're talking about First Friday again. Doug.
I'm sorry, I have one thing to add that I forgot to say. I'm generally also in favor of this because though it is Visit Hood River, really the chamber, but it's, it's, I don't know how you do that if it's, it's funded in the similar fashion, right? So I think that I'm in favor of doing this because though it's, Visit Hood River, I can't think of a time where I see more people that I know in town than First Friday. I've waved to hundreds of my neighbors the other night, so.
Personal Doug party, you're saying?
Yeah, so it's just my friends that are coming out. Maybe yours aren't, but it just seems to be at like, and I just think back to, last year with the Latino community really being out in full force. That was promoted by, the VHR that does tourism, but it brought the locals out, which is why I'm in favor of it.
And I agree with that, and we'll talk about this later, but there was a business that talked about how beneficial that was for their business to have hundreds of Doug's friends downtown supporting her business, and that she was really creative in how she marketed to that event, and that an entire community that might have not come downtown was supporting her business. So I think some of the comments that we heard earlier is, as a business owner, you do have to be intentional about marketing to an audience that you maybe don't historically market to, and that it was Visit Hood River that coordinated with partners to bring a diverse population downtown, and that it was very beneficial for that business owner.
So in my opinion, we don't so frequently make a decision in the way that I'm hoping we will now make a decision with. There's kind of three choices, right? If you agree with there's charge them full, charge them half, charge them nothing. And a way to do that is one of us makes a motion for one of those three, and we feel comfortable saying no if I'd prefer another option. So what I would suggest is that somebody make a motion at one of the price points, and if I don't like that, I'm going to vote against it. And so, Doug?
I'm happy to make a motion if people feel like we've discussed it. Okay, so I'm going to move that we waive the fees, the event permit fees for the closures for June, August, and it says June on here, but I think that means
September.
September.
June is the new September.
Right. But we waive the fees after the approximately $1,250 of direct labor costs have been incurred, right? So whatever the difference between 2643 and 1250 is what
Yep.
it should be.
So we charge them 1250 is the motion.
Correct, or yes, yeah, basically.
pay $12.50.
We waive part of it, they pay 12.
Yep. Okay, moved at 1250 by Stupina.
Second.
Second by Rivera. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Ben and Anna said nay. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor, 2 against. Chair votes aye, motion passes. Okay? Good job, guys. Thanks. Back to the beginning. Hang on. Stand by. We now have the Oregon Transportation Infrastructure Bank Loan Approval.
Thank you. So this is a request to approve the resolution that would authorize the city accepting a loan from OTIB, the finance arm of ODOT. This relates to the elevated sidewalk project. So the design phase has been completed. All the right-of-way issues have been successfully resolved, and the easements have been secured. Construction is now ready to commence. As of May 13th, the city council staff was presented with an update on the status of the project with the new cost estimates, and council was directed to continue the project through construction in cooperation with ODOT. On March 10th of this year, council approved the city's deposit of the matching funds of $1.8 million, which allowed ODOT to award the construction contract, and now construction is expected to commence on June 10th. As a reminder, the project costs are about $3.7 million, which includes design, the acquisition of the right-of-way, easements, and then this construction component. Funding of the project is comprised of $1.5 million of ODOT grant funds, and then $2.2 million from the city's road or general fund. To finance the city's portion of the funding obligation, Hood River has applied for and received approval of a $2 million loan from the Oregon Transportation Infrastructure Bank, which is the finance arm of ODOT. Of the $3.7 million in total project costs, about $900,000 have been spent to date, with the remainder to be spent during this construction phase. Approval of the loan request was provided by council on the March 24th meeting. The final approval of the terms established by the OTIB loan are a $2 million loan amount at an interest rate of 3.47%, a loan fee of 1%, and a maturity date of December 1st, 2045. The borrowing is secured by the full faith and credit of the city of Hood River, meaning that all lawfully available funds for the city, including but not limited to the general fund, local gas tax, and the state highway user tax, may be pledged as collateral for the loan. The loan document and terms have been reviewed by the city attorney, and has found that the loan documents generally contain standard provisions and conditions for loans of this nature. The loan is anticipated to close in June and to be fully funded by December 1st, 2026, which is the project completion deadline. As I mentioned, the resolution is in front of you for approval, which would allow the city manager, excuse me, to execute loan documents and return any other loan closing items that would be required for the city to close this loan with OTIB.
Thank you, Chris. Questions?
In situations like this, I don't know if anything like this has come before me since I've been on council. Is there like a, does the city have like a loan strategy, like payoff? And if so, like what is it? Or is it just like, just kind of curious in terms of, just because the length of the terms of the loan was 20 years. So
Yeah.
just curious, like, what do we kind of do in this situation in terms of how we decide to, pay off loans?
Yeah, so so I think in general, infrastructure loans are they have a longer amortization because they are tied to the underlying infrastructure. So there are some loans that the city has done that have a 40-year duration for I believe it's like sort of sewer and water projects. Again, sort of given the long sort of duration of the underlying infrastructure. In this instance, it is a question of weighing sort of cash proceeds, right, versus what funds can we borrow. It is a competitive interest rate. It is a long amortization. It allows the city to finance a improvement that otherwise would not be able to, or finance at a higher interest rate, sort of with another source. So those are the general considerations.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I wish we were all getting those interest rates
Yeah.
right now.
Correct.
Other comments or questions before we have a motion?
I wish that a sidewalk didn't cost $2 million.
That's not a motion.
That
that's a
actually-
wish.
that
No, it's a win, but yeah, I mean, this is something we've been talking about for a long time, and I mean, we had to pay for this outright. It would cripple our road fund completely, and it's just I'm glad we found a way to make this happen, but I'll be voting for this motion, holding my nose a little bit, because it's an enormous amount of money for a little city like us to incur for a small section of sidewalk. So it is elevated and it's challenging. It's still a lot of money.
Yep.
I move that city council adopt resolution 2025-14, authorizing the execution of a loan agreement in an aggregate principal amount of not more than $2,019,900 with ODOT, and to sign and deliver any other certificates or documents and take any other actions which the city manager determines are desirable to carry out this resolution.
Moved by Mitchell,
Second.
second by Rivera. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. No discussion, no city recorder, city manager comments, Abigail.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no comments for tonight.
Committee reports. Amanda.
I did attend the Energy Council meeting last week. And they are kind of working on planning or thinking ahead to the next 5 years, I believe. And the big thing that it's very uncertain with the funding and all that, so they don't really feel confident on anything. Like, it's just like, okay, what would we like to do, but we don't even know what we're gonna be able to do. But the big takeaway that I took from the meeting was them, kind of wondering where we are at as a city and a council, where we could, where we have similar shared priorities, and how we can kind of work together a little bit more in the future. And part of that that they brought up was possibly the idea of, we work on making our city choosing environmental projects to work on for like our institution, but also possibly considering kind of like legislating things for the town and, private residences and things in the future. So there was nothing specific, but just kind of like throwing that idea around. And so, yeah, I just would also like, if anybody wants to talk about shared visions, and I don't really have specific like projects at this moment, but how, and maybe in general, you feel about working more closely with them. Things done.
Thank you, Amanda. I once lived in a city that has now regulated, you may not install gas stoves in that city anymore. It's not about what the city administration does. The residents may not install gas stoves because, carbon. So that's like a different level of involvement than we choose to have.
and it was like stuff like that that came up, and I guess Ashland just has something similar. They didn't ban them outright, but it's like if you choose to install a gas stove, you're gonna pay fees to
Mhm.
offset that. So,
Mhm.
you know, it's just possibilities for the future, something to think about. Yeah, how you all feel about that? But
And just like for the sake of discussion, like I'm pretty tight with the United Way, and a major sponsor of our fundraising is Northwest Natural. So like the politics of that is a real thing. Gladys.
I just wanted to say that I would be open to having a discussion, so maybe, I can't think of her name right now. Sorry.
Lindsay McClure
Lindsay, there we
from
go.
McCall.
Yes, comes and has a presentation of what are their overall goals as a county and how, as a committee, and how they're working with the county and where we could potentially partner, what those projects would look like. And it sounds like there are some other cities throughout Oregon that are doing some pretty innovative work, and have a discussion around that.
And correct me, we do make an actual contribution to the Energy Council, is that right?
That's right. The city provides $20,000 a year for Energy Council membership.
Thank you. Great, thanks. Anything else, Amanda?
no, yeah, I think that'd be great. And it might be better once they have like their goals, you know, kind of figured out. Maybe she could come after that and present. So, thank you.
Thank you. Grant?
Had the Region 1 Act meeting, nothing newsworthy from there. Next month is the strategic meeting. So if you have any input on that regarding strategic goals for transit, let me know before then. It's the 21st, if I remember the date right. So I can't remember the date. It's around that date. I can't remember the exact date. It's around the third week of July.
Great,
So
thank you.
just
Grant.
shoot me an email or let me know.
Doug?
There was a Saruta Sister City meeting. Both Gladys and I had conflicts, unfortunately, and could not attend that. But usually we hear if there's a city action that's required directly after. We interface with all of them quite frequently, a number of them, including Kevin Liberty, Megan Saunders, et cetera. So nothing had bubbled up from that to us, but we weren't able to attend, fortunately, on that for a dual strike.
Thank you, Gladys.
Nothing from me.
Ben?
I actually have things. Ooh, yeah.
Things. Go boy.
Yes, multiple. Yeah, you're right to call that out. So a while back, Abigail put forth my name to be on the Regional Solutions Committee and got an email about a week or two ago from Patty Mulvihill, the Executive Director of League of Oregon Cities. And she informed me that I was one of two city officials that were nominated to fill one spot on the Regional Solutions Advisory Committee for the North Central region. So I applied for it. Not sure when we'll hear back, when Governor Kotek makes her decision or one of her staffers make the decision. I don't know how that actually works. But yeah, that is in the works. I reached out to Megan Ramey, CAT, Vice Chair of CAT, about meeting with her. I have admittedly not been good about getting in touch with her. So I emailed her on Sunday, and we're corresponding about meeting up to talk about CAT stuff. I did see in the Columbia Gorge News article that they had just purchased 3 buses that'll be arriving in the fall, and that they were gas powered, not electric, due to supply chain issues. But I will meet up with Megan Ramey here in the near future and chat with her more about what's going on there.
Thank you.
Nothing from me.
So I said a little bit at the beginning about the land acknowledgement. I don't know how many of you folks clicked on the link and got to see that little video. It just, to me, is like, this is another interesting part of that conversation. And I'm, as I sort of said, I guess before, it's frustrating that I thought what Mr. Sprague was very pertinent, that, you know, sort of performatively say a few things and go on with our business. It's like, I'd rather feel better about that. And I don't mean to be critical of doing it. I introduced land acknowledgements to this entity. And it's just, it's not fully satisfying, and I would like for it to be incrementally more satisfying or less dissatisfying or something. So I don't know, it's always hard to have conversations like that in the big room, but I would welcome conversations, and maybe we can come up with something that I would feel better about. Gladys?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recall that I was actually chatting with Abigail about this, and the reason I was able to recall was because Grant was on my right, so I know it was at some point before our newest peers ended up joining. But we were having a discussion around waiving parking fees for our local Native American, Alaska Native community members, and I remember that both Grant and I had brought up, well, what are some of the other action items that we can actually do? So I think before we go into, we can do this, we can do that, that it's really important that we are engaging our Native American community through whether that's CritFic, through the neighbor group that exists at the next door, if there are folks within your equity work group, and that potential solutions are coming directly from them, and that those are the action items that we are following up on and completing to say, we recognize that this land has been stolen from you. Here is what we're trying to do to not have additional broken promises, but I do know that at one point water rights came up, and what are we going to do about that? So I agree with some of the public comment that was given and appreciate that we are acknowledging this, but what are we going to do about it?
Thank you. Amanda?
Yeah, and I can appreciate your like revisiting it, because I think that's important. And I agree with Gladys, like, yes, it is performative just to like read this and then go and do nothing. I think, so maybe we just try a little bit more to remember this as we make decisions on everything. It came up with the landscaping contract. Somebody brought that up. You acknowledge the land, and so maybe we really think about what we're putting on the land here. And it could be as simple as like incorporating it into all of those, kind of decisions. And then really striving more, make more of an effort to do things like reaching out, figuring out what we can do, what the Native people think will be helpful, and following up on that and like, seeing it through. Because I do think it's important. I don't want to just like brush it away, but it does need to be followed by action for sure. So yeah, just being more intentional about it, which require follow-up action. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Anna?
I really appreciate one of the things that Councilwoman Rivera said also, that, the importance of engaging in dialogue, because part of the reason why it does feel kind of performative and as Mr. Sprague brought up, and as we all have said, is that we're going through this motion, but I don't even know if it means anything to the people that it's meant to honor, and or if they even feel like it is. So let's ask them what do they recommend? And that's where, when I did click on the link that was provided to us, and I want to thank you for bringing it up, Mayor Blackburn. And but I think that that's what kind of inspired me to think about how we are all just stewards of the land that at this moment in time. And I think, while I don't pretend to know a lot about the Native American traditions, the little that I do know, that I really think is beautiful is that approach to stewardship, and also the importance of community and gathering. And those are things that I feel like, if we can engage with them and ask for their guidance, and then incorporate some of their incorporate their recommendations into how we lead and make decisions, like I said, about, the greater good for the community, then I think that is meaningful. And that's kind of echoing what Councilwoman Rivera and Councilwoman Goldie said as well. Thank you for being thoughtful, Council.
Doug?
One clerical thing, I suppose. We've all been talking about the link. It's not in the packet, right?
That's correct. It sent it out to you individually.
I mean, if I was watching this and we were all talking about some link that I have no idea what they're talking about, should there be an amendment to the packet or something that? Like, procedurally, I don't know.
Right, thank you. So I had imagined showing it at the meeting.
Yeah.
And then as things evolved, I decided against that. And I mean, we could show it right now, I suppose would be a choice. In fact, I would vote for that. You guys okay if we show it right now? It's 2 minutes long.
Yeah, I'm glad you chose not to show it at the beginning, so that did take away from everything. I'm fine with that. I would also just add to that, if everybody else is cool queuing it up. I think that, Gladys, Mayor Blackburn, both are bringing up that we work with a lot of people on this topic. Maybe a better way to do this is formalize it as a goal on a work plan or something like that, because that's how we get quarterly updates and everything. I think the work's happening. I agree that maybe finding the words and doing something at the beginning does not seem to help, but so let's champion the stuff that is helping, maybe by formalizing that, or at least having an agenda item on a decided cadence where maybe Abigail can tell us what they've been doing with these organizations, or what we can talk about what we've been doing with these organizations on a cadence.
Thank you. We're gonna show the video, is that okay? Thank you.
Great, thank you all. Just give me a moment I'm gonna share the screen. And then I'm gonna look to Jen to let me know when we're ready, because it does start right away. There's no buffer.
Make sure to click share with sound.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we talked about that. In our practice, we noticed that. Thank you for that. You got it on the full screen. Okay, ready, Jen? Sure. Okay. I hear nothing.
It's muted on the bottom right hand corner.
Thank you.
On the actual image.
By her left knee.
Now I'm going to, I think this is definitely a team sport. I'm gonna reload it so that in hopes that I can get it from the very beginning.
Thank you for your technological work.
Okay, so I've got the team sport here, got it on stereo. I got the sound way up.
And scroll down.
Scroll down, this is mute.
See that mute in the bottom right hand corner?
Oh, okay, on Instagram post itself. Okay, everybody ready?
Yeah, and it's already started, so you might have to.
All right, I can reload it. Third time's gonna be the charm, just know. Probably gonna read it.
We would like to acknowledge that this theater stands on territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, and the Petun First Nations. We are also mindful of broken covenants and the need to make right with all our relations. And now, please enjoy the show.
Oh, sorry, hello? Sorry, excuse me, should we go?
Excuse me?
Oh, no, I just mean if we're on someone else's land, shouldn't we leave?
Oh, no. The theater is here now. We'd just like to acknowledge whose land it is.
I'm sorry, I'm so confused. So if we're on someone else's land, shouldn't we do something about that, or?
Hopefully we'll enjoy the performance.
Oh, okay, so some of the money from the ticket sales of the show are going to the indigenous communities?
Well, no.
A portion of them?
No, the ticket sales go to the theater.
So is the money from the bottled water sold here going to the First Nations for clean drinking water, or?
Oh, no, that money goes to Nestle.
Nestle.
They're a sponsor.
I'm so sorry, I'm so confused. So whose land are we on? What are we doing?
It's a dialogue.
How are we making right?
Well, there's a plaque you can read in the lobby.
I don't understand.
I'm getting a message from the stage manager that we need to begin the show, so please take your seats. Have a good time. Good night.
So sit down. Enjoy the show. Just enjoy the show.
So thank you for your thoughtfulness and pondering and a good conversation here. Council comments, moving again, we'll start over here, Anna.
I was thinking of the Saruda initiative with the meeting on that committee meeting, but I can report that There was a meeting at the high school for students interested in participating in the 2026 trip. And it was mentioned at that meeting that the 2026 trip will be for students, and a 2027 trip potentially marking the 50th anniversary is going to be an adults only trip, which I thought was interesting. See, I had the opportunity to meet with a few folks within our community, like Hendrix, about Dark Skies information. That was really fascinating and fun to listen to and discuss with him. And then, so I just really appreciate like the opportunity to get together with the different people in our community and learn about what matters to them. And so, Mr. Francis about the development of the Campbell property that and I got to meet with him, and yeah, it's part of the joy of getting to live in this community and serve in its role. So I don't think I have anything else.
Thank you.
Though I voted against the fee waiver, I really enjoyed First Friday and I had a great time there, as I always do. Friday night is my first time as a counselor staffing the city booth. And it was a really great experience. We absolutely ripped through those rainbow lays. They were very hot item. Ran out of them fairly quickly, but thankfully we had well stocked with the rainbow stickers to hand out to individuals as well. That's yes, yeah, there you go. Yeah. I think that is the Pride First Friday especially, is obviously kind of, one of the more meaningful ones of the First Fridays. So it's really nice to, see people out there and embracing themselves and just hopefully feeling safe and having a good time. And it's just part of one of the many things that make this town special. And to that point, I will also be at the Juneteenth celebration, which that musical lineup looks really, really awesome. Yep. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well.
As Mayor mentioned earlier, we had a groundbreaking event for Mariposa Village, and Phil Brady, one of the commissioners out in Wasco County, gave the most beautiful speech, and the sentence that he stated towards the end just has really resonated with me ever since, that there were folks who had said, this is for us, we are being seen, and just really proud of this council, staff, and all of the other partners that really made that come to fruition. It's still a couple of years until it's built out, but it was just beautiful to see, all the people there, our past mayor, past councilors. It just took a lot of time, money, additional resources to get to that event, and it was beautiful. So I appreciate everyone that attended. Want to thank John and Vicky and all their work for Somos Inmigrantes. The Latino community is facing a very troubling time right now. As many of you know, the National Guard was brought in LA, and it's been pretty devastating to watch. Folks shouldn't have to fear for their safety in the way that they are. And how our national resources are being utilized in such a way, it makes me feel really helpless. And I know that there's only so much that we can do, but it's really unfortunate. And I can understand how folks are genuinely terrified right now. So I would just want to say thanks to folks who are doing their best to make sure that we are making sure that our local community members feel safe and welcomed. And I know that many of us received emails about some security systems, and it was
it was heartwarming to hear that folks have been talking to Chief Holste, and he has been reassuring folks that that is not something that his department is supporting overall. And so I think that's really validating to some of our community members. So I just appreciate everyone who has been involved in that. And lastly, I just wanted to give an update around the conversations that we've been having around Summer Streets project, and that the intention is to ensure that we are including a variety of our community members to feel welcomed and safe to be downtown. There was a meeting that took place this last Tuesday. Councilor Stepina and I attended. And to be quite honest, I was, let me say, not everyone, but that there was this feeling of sense of ownership, sense of, and someone verbatim said, downtown is not broken. What is the city trying to fix? The unwillingness to just have an open mindset. And when I personally brought up that, you know, last September we had an event that was to celebrate the Latinos within our community, and the amount of people that I saw, I mean, I saw hundreds of people outside of Oak Street. I had never seen that many people down on Oak Street. There was a lot of support from the Latino community for some of these businesses that were open downtown. And that sense of, we've been in business for over 20 years, downtown is not broken. Why is the city trying to fix something that's not broken? Again, not everyone was completely opposed. That's where we then discussed of the locals Wednesdays that took place a couple of years ago, and really trying to highlight how do we ensure, and that we do this collaboratively, that downtown is open to our Upper Valley folks and a variety of different community members that call Hood River home. I still think that we should continue to move forward, and this is where we bring in our partners like Visit Hood River to support these efforts. The city is a partner in this, but we alone cannot do it. In the end, there were some great ideas that did come from the conversation, but I think there was a lot of opposition, and Doug and I reassuring that this was just a brainstorming session, and that council was looking for their feedback around what are things that we should be looking for, and there was just a lot of negativity.
I guess I will begin my comments by piggybacking on that. And thank you so much, Abigail, for bringing that together, and for Katie Cadleb to bring some of the members of the downtown businesses. You know, something that Councilor Cavalieri said during her comments about how we speak with the community, and it's a joy. You know, I'd like to thank all my counselors for spending the time. I mean, let's face it, Grant and I make $50 a month to do this. You know, it's a highly volunteer job, right? And frankly, the suggestion of one person that was there, that who are the people that you talk to? I know more people than you do. I'll never go to that business again. I'm not going to name that business, but if you're watching, I will not set foot in your business ever again. There's a lot of good faith in this community. There's a lot of good faith on this council. We need to continue to work with our community stakeholders to ensure we have an inclusive community, open space. I believe in these goals. I think that we can do that. I think that we came in good faith without a well-hatched plan for the express purpose that we didn't want to come to them with a well-hatched plan, because that meant that we did not get their feedback. I was very, very disappointed, but you know, I'm gonna read a comment that I got from Lorraine Lyons that we all got today. I'm 100% interested in discovering if this plan is viable for downtown. That's what we want. We want to discover if this plan is viable for downtown. That's where we are. And I would urge anybody else that we reach out to, we are reaching out to you in good faith. And we want to partner with the community to be able to do these sorts of things so that everybody can feel like downtown is theirs. Sorry, that's so negative, but I think it's positive in the long run. You know, I sound upset. I still feel, as Gladys does, that we can work out something for this to ensure that all of our community can enjoy every part of our town. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is we lost a very, very important member of our community, Scott Rumsey, very unexpectedly late last week. Scott was an educator in this community for 31 plus years. For Bright Beginnings with Billy, his wife, and Patty, and so many others. I considered him a friend, and I know so many others did as well. And I really hope that, you know, whatever this, if the city's asked for anything to assist with, you know, likely organizing a very large effort because this will be it's not something you can like have at a funeral home or something like that. If his family's taking their time right now, I just, you know, I think we need to celebrate educators like Scott and awesome community members like Scott. I'm so sorry that he's gone. In regards to Somos Inmigrantes, I don't have frontage at my house, but I would be displaying a sign if I could. You know, speaking from a personal note, not so much the city of Hood River or the council, it's difficult to conduct business and not feel distracted when things like what's happening in LA today, Marines being called into our cities to do this sort of thing without the approval of the governor or the mayor. And to Mayor Blackburn's comments earlier about, you know, sticking the head out, you know, being the prairie dog, it's a terrifying time to be an American and terrifying time to be in government. I'm proud of us that we continue to do what we're supposed to be doing at our level of government and not being overly consumed with the things that are going at the federal level. But I think, you know, what we did today is a great example of how we can make the community feel supported. I thought John Boonstra said a really good thing about, you know, we understand more or less, and I'm paraphrasing, that there's not a whole lot you can do, but this is something we can do, and I'm proud that we did it. I think that's it for me today.
Thank you, Doug. Grant?
Many meetings ago, Councilor Cavallari mentioned the idea of honoring folks while they're still with us. So that might be something that we want to explore while people are still with us. Regarding the comments that my fellow councilors made regarding the idea of summer streets, disappointed about doing that. The driving force of, or the what's the word I'm looking for? The desire of city council, or at least me anyway, is to explore these ideas or concepts in a controlled and measured way to see if they're viable, make sense, not necessarily to break things that aren't broken, to use that vernacular, but instead just make things better, be it as small or incrementally as possible. As much or as little as they do, great, but we don't know unless we at least explore those ideas, possibly try them. So hopefully we can have more discussion and people can be open to that in a more constructive manner than was expressed by my fellow councilors. That's all I got for today. Thanks.
Thank you, Grant. Amanda?
I just want to echo what Councilor Cavallari was saying about, I feel like I've had a lot of outreach from community members and meeting with them recently. And so it just, you know, we're both kind of newer on the council, so it feels really good to be doing that work that we are here to do and be in touch and communicate with our constituents. So that has been really cool. Part of that, you know, has been regarding the streets. I've been, you know, having some conversations around that. And, Yeah, I am definitely wanting to talk about this more, the idea, a lot of points were raised to me that I really think are good points and that we should bring to the conversation. So I don't know what that looks like going forward, as far as council conversations and decisions and all that, but yeah. And I don't know, at this point, it's June and it feels late for this year, and with so much like uncertainty about what we even want and kind of some uncertain feelings about businesses, I kind of personally feel like maybe we develop this more and keep talking about it throughout the year and really don't focus on trying to do something like next month. It seems really fast. Yes.
Just to let you know, we did express that as well.
Okay.
No date was like, this is coming July, people, let's
Right.
figure
Well,
this
I
out.
just know as the council, we
Agreed.
had discussed trying to do it this summer, so yeah, that's where that comes from. And then, yes, with the Somos Inmigrantes, I really appreciate this movement and the people who are, spreading the word and helping share the message. My kids have been seeing signs around, and it's been and asking questions like, what does that mean? So I just appreciate the opportunity to have conversations surrounding that with my children, and hopefully that's happening with a lot of young people in town and even older people in town. So that's all I have today.
The last item is an executive session, which I think might take a little while, so we're going to take a 5-minute break. Jen, are you cool? Says I'm muted, unmute, okay. City Council will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.661F to consider records that are exempt from public inspections. Representatives of the news media and designated staff are allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room, and we will end the public broadcast. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. I'd like to say thanks so much to the Columbia Gorge News for having such a loyal and nuanced presence here. I appreciate that. No decision may be made nor final action taken in executive session. The executive session is anticipated to last about 30 minutes. At the end of the executive session, the City Council meeting will be adjourned and no action will be taken. We will now discontinue the live feed and recording.